All right. So there's this concept of Wes Montgomery's minorization. Right? It's not a bad thing to say. Um, and he minorizes dominant chords to give them a flavor, um, to give them a signature flavor, right? You could just say. And a dominant chord is just that's like a C seventh or a G seventh. It's a seventh chord. And what a seventh chord is, if you take a G chord and you go down a tone, you get to an F. So you chuck an F in a G chord, you've got a dominant seventh chord. Rock players just usually say C7, G7. Often jazz players will say C dominant, C dominant, whatever. Okay. Now, what's interesting, so this is the first example, which is pretty cool. Let's say he's got a chord which is, say, C7. So his chord is C7. So rather than playing C7, he will play a G minor 7 as a substitute, right? So I'm talking about him playing within that scale. So he's soloing over a G minor 7 scale. Or he can play it as a chord as well. Both can kind of work in different contexts. And the reason why it works, the reason why the G minor 7 works while C7 is being played, is because there's a lot of notes that are shared between the G minor 7 and the C scale, C7. So what's happening is when you play the G minor 7, you're adding a ninth. That has the effect of adding a ninth to a C chord, or C dominant chord. And a ninth is just one tone after the scale ends. So A, B, C, D, E, A, B, C, D, E, F. So your A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. It's after C, the one after C is D. So you're adding another D. Right? That would make it a C ninth. And the other thing he's doing is he's adding the other cool thing about doing a G minor 7 is it adds up an F to the chord, which is what we call the sus4 chord. And a sus4 is a suspended chord. It's called a suspended fourth. So you can say it adds a suspended fourth. So if I was talking about it, I might explain it. A fourth, again, is just 1, 2, 3, 4, major scale. If I was explaining, I might say something like this. Wes Montgomery uses a technique which is common in jazz, which is substituting, called chord substitution. And often this is done by, for example, taking a dominant chord like C7, and instead of soloing over C7, for example, he will solo over G minor 7. And that works because there's a lot of notes shared between C dominant 7 and G minor 7. But the G minor 7 adds a kind of ninth flavor to the C7 chord because you're adding a D. You're adding a D, which creates a ninth flavor. And you're also adding an F chord in a C chord, which is adding the flavor of a F sus4. Now, these adding a ninth, so the other players in the band, for example, just to make this clear, are playing C7. But Wes Montgomery is soloing on a G minor 7. So all he thinks about is he's soloing on a G minor 7, but that is actually what it's doing. It's playing in C7, but it's adding a sus4 and a ninth, which gives it a signature sound for Wes Montgomery. Does that make sense?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, cool. Then, and you can give this example. So that's a C ninth.
Yeah.
And that's a G minor 7. So you see how they've shared a lot of things.
Yeah.
This is maybe even a better chart because not only does he do that, he uses another substitution, which is instead of doing C7, right? He could do G minor 7, but he could also do B major 7, right? Major 7, what a major 7 is just one semitone down. So B flat major 7. Sorry, I said B major, I meant to say B flat major 7. B flat major 7 is adding an A because one semitone back from B flat is an A. So you're adding an A to the chord. That's it. So he can do B flat major 7, or he can do G minor 7 over a C7. So you've got these two options of substitution, and you can use them both together. What the B major 7 does is it adds another tension to C7, the 13th. So 13th is just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Just know what I mean? That's all that is. It adds, they're talking about it adds tension to a C7. And that's not a bad way of saying it. It adds tension to a C7. Because a lot of jazz is characterized by adding tension and releasing it, kind of thing. So this is minorization, example 1. Unit 7, right? A G minor 7 arpeggio. Arpeggio is just a way of playing the notes individually. So this is what I was getting at. This is why he's not thinking about mixolydian. He's thinking about the chord. He's thinking about chord substitution as he does this. And he's playing that chord in an arpeggio. He's playing the notes of that chord. This is how they look. And this is a B major 7. So that's 2 chords. He plays this. So you can give an example. You can play that, or you can write this. That's cool. I like that. So this is a C7, and in this C7 chord, he has used these notes. Now, if you want to know which notes here, you might want to, if they ask you to point, well, which of the notes are the example of the, you can go through and you can work it out. So you can say, well, the C7 is this. So we're adding, for example, an F, right? So when we see an F, this is part of the substitution. So see if we can find an F in this little thing. Here's an F. That's an F, for example. So that's an example of the substitution. Here, adding the F. Was also an A here, right? Here we go. And then also that's part of the substitution. But we see an A here in the B major 7. So I think that might be enough just to talk about all that. Now, let's just stop that for a second.